Yes.
Okay, should be good to go.
Okay. Hi, friends. We're gonna get going on our session today because we have a lot of content to cover in true Career Center fashion. A lot of content to cover in a short amount of time. My name is Brigette Marty, and I am one of the coaches here at the Carlson School in our in our Carlson Business Career Center. And I had the opportunity recently to go through Design Your Life, which is a training program with Coach Will, who's also on the call, and he'll be monitoring chat and answering questions today. And another coaching colleague. And I'm excited to bring some of the tools that we learned in our training session to you as we talk about career exploration journeys. But first, no gathering starts until everyone has a chance to hear their own name or hear their own voice or throw an answer into the chat. So we always want to give you an opportunity to engage into the space. And so our question today is, when you were a kid, what kinds of clubs, classes, sports, or activities did you gravitate towards? This is a judge-free zone. So when you feel comfortable, please share your thoughts in the chat. So things that when you were a kiddo, you gravitated towards, activities, classes, you know, so, Coach Will, of course, comes at it with a beautiful soccer ball emoji, which, of course, the sports ball.
Yeah, very brand for me.
Yes, Alicia, also sports. I love that. Erin in art club. I hear you, Erin. I was also in art club. Loved that. Oh yeah, basketball, piano, and napping. Well, I think if you're doing basketball and piano, you deserve to nap. Everything, yes, sports, student council, speech, art. I love this. I love this. I love the Sarah, you say you wanted to be involved in everything too. So that kind of that like desire to really go big, do all the things and try all the things out. When I was a kiddo, I definitely gravitated towards I think the creative things. I was thinking of like the summer school classes that I would try to take were always like arts, kind of creative, hands-on. And I by far was in the bottom of the class in terms of artistic ability, still am, but loved the process and the journey of just like doing something messy and having fun with it. So thank you so much for sharing. With this, we're just trying to get you into this space, warmed up, kind of thinking and starting to build a little bit of reflection muscle, because we're going to be doing a lot of that today. As I mentioned, Coach Will is going to be leading the chat. And so if you have specific questions, he'll be able to answer or elevate those. In addition, he is going to be putting a file into the chat that is your handouts. For the session. We've also attached these handouts into Handshake into the event so that you can go back and pick up the handouts there. But I do encourage you to open the file that Will is going to drop into the chat, because it's a PowerPoint. And if you are, as grad students, you're pretty PowerPoint savvy. There's a lot of creative tools you can use in PowerPoint to kind of draw-ish. As much as you want during this session, and you'll kind of understand why as we move forward. So in addition to having the tools for success, you're here with us, we're on the Zoom, you're going to get that handout dropped in shortly. Then I need to make sure you have the mindset. When we think about career, when we think about our lives, we often get in this idea of shoulding all over ourselves. I should have this figured out. I should know what I want to do. Everybody else around me seems to have it figured out. Why don't I? And there's often this idea that we have to have it perfectly mapped out, right? There should be, what's your 5-year plan or 10-year plan, right? Have this mapped out. But in this career space, and any of you who've worked with us know that we're a little more about trying to find more of a general direction, and in fact, multiple directions. And so wanting you to have 2, 3, 4 pathways that you're interested in. Education is meant to be expansive and illuminating, not reductive, right? We want you to be inspired by your educational experience, inspired by the life you're living, and be generating more options for yourself as opposed to fewer. So this session and the part 2 session, which will be in January, I want to absolutely tell you right now, you will not leave these sessions with a clear function in industry and your next job. I promise you, you will not. The goal of the session is not to do that. The goal of the session is to help you learn the tools that you can continually go back to throughout your entire careers and share with other people to help them, coach yourself on being able to journey through the career exploration process, which is iterative. We're doing it over and over and over. Coach Willa and I have both made significant career pivots throughout our years on this planet. I won't say how old either of us are, but we've both made pivots. So we've used these tools ourselves as well. Okay, so the ultimate goal today, tools for success. We aren't going to get time to work on every single tool because there's a lot of tools. But again, this is a 2-part session. Part 1 is now, part 2 is in January. It will be recorded, both of them will. So I just invite you to get ready to dabble in these a little bit. And then you do have homework after this, which is going to be working on these activities as we leave. So don't be frustrated if you're like, I can't do all the stuff I want to do. Often when we are coaching with students, we think about your career and kind of that high level process. We like to kind of help you think about how we're thinking about it, which is thinking about it from exploring all that there is, internal reflection, external reflection, or external research, sorry, building skills and bridging any gaps. Hence why maybe you're here in grad school, because you're building some skill gaps and bridging some things. And then also executing that tactical execution, resumes, cover letters, interviewing, all those kinds of things. So we think this process, and it's iterative over and over and over. So we're really focusing on the exploration part. What we're going to do today is a quick introduction to design thinking, because design thinking is one of the tools that we use and part of the mindset. And then we're going to do some 3 big activities, and hence that's where that handout is helpful. Or if you like to go classic, just use a sheet of paper. When we went through studio, we were encouraged to use, paper, markers, get creative. I do think that there is value in doodling and drawing. And even if you just need a random thought parking lot for yourself and a place to just kind of put random ideas, we want you to be able to put these ideas down as you go through it. Okay, so what we're going to do today is kind of on the left side of the screen, and then on the other side of the screen is what's going to be covered in session 2. So design thinking. Design thinking is the main process that we use to move through this journey, this career exploration journey. And so the design thinking methodology is really, really common in design spaces, or when people are trying to innovate and come up with new concepts, new ways of doing things. And so as you see, it's a circle, and it starts at the top with empathize, which is really connecting with yourself, connecting, understanding what's going on within you. What do you believe to be true? Or we need to challenge any of your internal thinking about something. For example, if it's like a job has to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That is a job, right? Challenging, empathizing with ourselves, understanding where we are right now, thinking about where I am from multiple perspectives. So it's a little woo-woo. We're going to do a lot of it today. Really leveraging defining. So as we're using, let's say we're using this process to think about where I might want to move next. So let's say I had the opportunity to move to a place that wasn't cloudy bright and that was sunny. And so I wanted to start generating things. So I'd first kind of get honest with myself about what's my motivation, why do I want to do this? I'm empathizing, then defining, really thinking thoughtfully about like, what's the problem I'm trying to solve here? Like defining clearly what it is I'm looking to do, ideating, generating lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas through collaboration and connection and relationship, and staying really curious and being open. And then moving into prototyping, which is doing stuff, being focused on action, having that bias towards action, asking questions of other people, trying things out, hence kind of the paper airplane little icon there. And then to help us expose and learn new things. So we're actively trying to learn and understand. And then finally is that kind of testing space, which is, kind of making a commitment to like maybe a larger something, like actually, for example, going to visit someplace. If I decide I want to move to Barcelona right now, then maybe I should, before moving there, I should maybe go visit it, right? So we move into that test phase. Will got really smiley about Barcelona because he might want me to move there. I don't know. So he wants to come visit. It's Carlson goes way east. That's what that is. Like we're going. So we're going to really focus on empathizing today. And I know this can be uncomfortable for folks because it's like, do you want to get in touch with my feelings and be a little vulnerable? Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We have to start there. We've got to start at the core of who you are. In addition, design thinking as a methodology has some foundational mindsets that are integral to the program, to the process. And I love these. Stay curious, be curious. Don't let yourself get caught asking one question. Aim for more, be generative, keep asking and looking, try stuff, keep moving forward. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the whole staircase. So we just focus on like the next step. What's one thing I can try? One thing I can do. Reframing problems. There's one of our favorite phrases that we use in design thinking is how might I? How might I try out what it would be like to live in a different country for my work? How might I try out what it's like to be a career coach? How might I try out what it's like to work remotely? Reframing. So thinking about how might I, possibilities. Being so mindful of the process. Most importantly, that this is a process. We go on to LinkedIn every day, because I know you're all career nerds like Coach Will and I are. You go onto LinkedIn and we see that so-and-so just got a new job, and this other person just got a new job, and this other person just got a new job. And it's like, if you were to just look at it and think, golly, these people just, whew, they decide they want a new job, bam, done. That's how it happens. But we know, trust us, we know, because we're behind the scenes working with those candidates and those folks. It's a whole journey and a whole process to get there. It's fits and starts, it's months and years, it's a whole process. And so we have to make sure that we get away from the idea of this should just be so easy, and instead recognize this is going to be a journey. And sometimes it's going to stall out, and other times it's going to go really, really fast. Okay. And then most importantly is radical collaboration. And I think that's one of the things I love about my job. And I'm not to speak for Coach Will, but I'm going to speak for Coach Will. I think he also does as well. Our job is to collaborate with you. We are one of your personal board of advisors, one of the people here to help you. But you also have other folks in your life, mentors, colleagues, family members, pets, whoever's there to help give you the good insight in the world, asking for help, reaching out, not being afraid to ask someone else about their career story. Okay, so these are some of the mindsets we're going to challenge you to embrace. So going forward, we're going to start digging into our first exercise. So we're going to build some data awareness. You know, we love data-driven decision-making here at the Carlson School and teaching you all the analytics. We're not doing any Tableau. We're not doing any Power BI, no SQL. I don't even know how to do any of those things. But I want you to just pretend like you are building your big, beautiful dashboards for yourself. So this is where you'll need your handouts and or sheet of paper, your favorite glitter marker. Are we good on the handouts, Will? Anything? Everything got dropped in the chat. People are good?
I think so. I'm gonna drop it in the chat one more time though.
Okay. Thank you. And again, it is in Handshake attached to the event. So, okay, when we think about career, there's a lot of different aspects influencing, right? So there's kind of the internal pieces, right? Values, your strengths and competencies, things that you're just pretty good at, what you're interested in, internal motivators, your personality, where your personality seems to fit, because we all want to find our people. And there's also some more external factors, which can be the current job market. If a student were to come to us and say, I'd love to be a typewriter repair person, we're probably going to say there's not a market right now for that, but there might be a better market for somebody who is interested in explaining cryptocurrency to like Gen Xers, because I would like to understand that better. So we think about what's trending in the market. There's external culture, like what is the culture you're coming from, what does work mean to you, but also the culture you could be going into in terms of the career. And also looking at geography, like where do you live? What are the certain trending industries? I have lived, I'm a Twin Cities transplant, but part of the reason I live here is because my industry is education. This is a wonderful area for education. Great place to be in. If I were to stay where I grew up, the industries are mainly farming and cheese making. not cut out for either, people, not cut out for either. So there are lots of different things that are influencing. So that's why we ask you a lot of this session is about asking a lot of questions of yourself and being mindful of all that's influencing, because when we are helping you generate career paths and roles, we want them to they always need to have that kind of be drawn back to your core, to your own personal bullseye of your values, leverage and grow your skills and strengths, feed in your curiosity and energize you. We always want to have something, that grounding document that we're going back to. It is very, very easy to get swayed by external things, caught up in everybody else is doing this, or I want that paycheck, but I'm not remembering about what the work is. Is this a good fit for me and who I am? And so we always start in the internal reflection so that we have that core. Okay, so the first tool we're going to use is called the work view. I am fairly certain none of you have done this before, because when Coach Will and I did this, it was new to us too. I think it was, Will, had you done it? I don't think you had done it before either. No. And this session that we were in was with a whole lot of career coaches who also had not done this before, but it's a cool tool. So our work view is something that is a document or it's a reflection tool that we want you to use to think about, what does work actually mean to you? Who thinks about that? What does it mean to you? When we think about work is, there's often, here's what I think about. Where there's often this idea of like work and life balance, but my work world is so integrated into my life. People I've met at work become friends. I run into students when I'm out in the community. Students give me referrals for the best dog food for upset doggy tummies. I mean, it's like there's a lot of integration, right? So it's not necessarily separated. And we think about that, work really is a huge part of our lives, right? And so, and when work is good, life is good, I think. It's a really kind of like, it can feel really good. And so when we look at our work, research has shown that people who are able to make a very clear connection between what's important to them and what's important to a kind of work world that they want, right? So their values and how they want to show up in the world, how they want to share their time, talent, and energy in the world. When there's a strong connection there, they're more satisfied, they're more adaptable, they can kind of ride the currents better, right? If you think about it like a sense from abundance, when you go grocery shopping on an empty stomach, there's some weird stuff that shows up in that cart. So we're kind of in a mindset of deficit, right? Of that. But when we're in a mindset of abundance, we've just had a full dinner and now we're heading to the grocery store. You can't tempt me with those spicy Cheetos and you cannot tempt me with those Lindt chocolates because I don't need them. I'm full. I'm more satisfied. I'm more likely to be able to handle the stresses, right? So we want to think about, what are those values that really help us have that compass to keep us going to our true north, to what really matters to us, okay? So in your handout, this slide is built out as 2 slides. If you want to type on the handout, you're welcome to do that. But these are some of the questions. So these are the 6 questions that I'm going to ask you. You do not have to do these all now, but we are going to take a couple minutes to encourage you to do 1 or 2. My favorite question of this is, what messages did you absorb about work from your upbringing and culture? What does work mean to your family of origin? What did you learn? I grew up in a very blue collar family that was some were entrepreneurs and others were working for the hourly wage. And so to me, I had 2 different messages of what work was that I had to kind of wrestle with as an adult in terms of what feels like a successful career to me. What purpose does work have for you? Is it a way that you really live out your values? Is it a means to a paycheck? Is it a place to go during the day? What does that look like? What are your motivators? Our executive director, Maggie, does a wonderful session about career motivation and identifies the top 5 motivators for folks, which can be money, impact, being able to make an impact on people or processes or places, praise and recognition, being part of an amazing culture, or prestige. And we often have multiple motivators. So for me, it's impact and culture are really important to me. Types of work or environments that support your identity. In other words, where are the places that you can be 100% yourself, or as much of yourself as you can hopefully be? Where are those places that really support who you are? What does career success look like to you? This is an interesting thing as we work with our working professional population at Carlson and folks who maybe moved up into people leadership roles and then are like, And I think I'd like to move away from a people leadership role because that isn't the success I was looking for. I want to influence people. I don't necessarily want to lead people directly. And so those different things. And then also, what does that most fulfilled version of you look like? You know, what does that really great day at work look like to you? So we're going to give you about 3 minutes and we're going to play a little music so that you can start jotting down some of these answers. Just want to start percolating this, okay? Now, share. Okay. Good. Thanks. Phil. We're good. Okay. So is that enough time to do this reflection? Absolutely not. It is enough time to get started on it and start thinking about this. Many things that we do today are crockpot activities, things that we start and we need to let them simmer because answers will surface at random times over the course of the next few days. And so I do encourage you, and that is going to be part of your homework, to keep coming back to these questions. Talk about them. You know, what does work mean to you? How do you feel motivated? What prompts you to get up and go and do that work each day? So that's tool number 1, is again, we're focusing on internal reflection to start to build our own compass so that we get a sense of what are our must-haves and our nice-to-haves as we continue to build our career directions. Next is going to be values. So tool number 2. If you remember kind of my bullseye slide earlier, we talked about ideal roles, companies' paths are going to be a reflection and honor your values. Values shift they evolve through time because we are ever evolving human beings. And we don't always stop and take a moment to think about what are those. Sometimes we get that weird little voice in the back of our head or a sense of dissonance when there's a misalignment between what you love, what is important to you and like the environment that you're in, or a project that you're working on, and you're like, this just doesn't align to what's really important to me, or my ability to make impact, or my ability to really drive results. Sometimes we can feel we're out of alignment. And so we also, though, need to take a moment to recognize what are our values. So career values represent what's most important to you in your work and what makes it meaningful, and they can help us help steer us in the right direction. One of the analogies I use is wholehearted versus half-hearted. I think about from my social life perspective, right? It's like when I have things on my social calendar, what things am I wholeheartedly excited to do, as opposed to half-hearted? Like, okay, I'm gonna just do it. That can represent your values and kind of part of your personality and what you gravitate towards. I think when we are really connected to our values, it is a whole heart showing up in the work environment to like, I can feel really present because this work aligns strongly to my values. And so we know it's really important to have a sense of what your values are, especially in this day and age when you're trying to discern what types of companies you might want to be working for, or industries that you want to be in. In your handout, there are there are slides. I think that's like 4 slides. So I tried to take this big handout and put it into the PowerPoint so that you can just work right within that document. And what the activity asks you to do is go through those different career values and rank them 1, 2, 3. In terms of 3 is like, yes, this so is me. 2 is like, yeah, this is a sometimes kind of value for me. And 1 is, it doesn't really even sort. It's just not that big of a deal. There's no judgment. It's just not that big of a deal. So you're asked to go through and rank. And then the next step is to go back through and identify those 3s, the ones that were at the top. And then we kind of continue to drill down. So what I encourage you to do is we're going to take another few minutes, and I want you to go into that career values exercise and do as much as you can. Okay, so I'm going to pop that music on again so that we can kind of just stay focused in this moment, and we're going to just go through some of those values. And if you come across a value or a phrase that doesn't make sense, skip over it, just keep moving. We want to just keep moving through, okay?
This could be the start of something special. You're something special. Raising up my heart to higher levels. You're something special. I just wanna take a chance. Today is gonna change tomorrow. No, this isn't what I planned, but I go where love goes. I just wanna take a chance. Today is gonna change tomorrow. No, this isn't what I planned, but I go where love goes. Yeah, yeah. 2 lovers in one dream. Yeah, yeah. Sail away with me. No, this isn't what I planned, but it's where love goes. No, this isn't what I planned, but it's where love goes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. But I go where love goes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. But I go where love goes. I go where love goes. I go where love goes. Yeah. I go where love goes.
Okay, my friends. So not enough time. I know that. Part of the design your life process is moving quick, music, energy, prompting gut reactions, which I know can be tough for our introverts that are like, huh, I need some time to marinate on this, versus extroverts that are like 3 minutes, that was forever. So I get it. We are meant to keep moving through this a little bit, but I need to hear from you because you keep hearing from me and I want to hear your thoughts. I want you to take a moment now. Over the last 7 days, when were you so engaged with something that you truly, truly lost track of time? It was like, you're so head down, focused in or engaging or in the moment. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what time it is. Please throw your answers in chat. In the last week, when have you been so engaged? Oh, reading a book. Erin, I love that. I've also read that book. So I also love that. Yes, I love that. Interesting thing about reading too is reading is often also a form of meditation. Reading is a form of centering, so which I think is kind of cool. A cool, oops, hold on, what happened here? Oh, am I still sharing my screen well? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, great. Sorry. Okay. So I love analyzing risks to a project timeline. Oh, Theo. I mean, I gotta love an MBA candidate. Analyzing risks on a project. I love that, but getting deep into the data and being able to probably pull some interesting insights. And Mark, oh my gosh, functional strategic plan. I love it. Will, hanging out with my son, being present. That is definitely one of Will's best skills, is being present, holding space with people. Andrea, sleeping in. And listen, Andrea, I woke up this morning excited for being able to sleep in on Saturday. So I get it. Writing personalized report for your consulting practice. I love that. So being able to communicate. Brainstorming. I love this. So I like hearing these things. So now what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to take, and I'll say my answer to this is actually building like workshop content. So Coach Will knows I've been, and when I'm like, sometimes when I'm super engaged with something, I kind of have like a grumpy face on because I'm just so focused in it and I just need to like hunker down, but I really do love building content. It's really interesting to me. So now I want you to think about the activity that you shared in the chat. Can you connect that to one of the values that you chose from that exercise? So if you think about one of your values, and then does that align with one of the activities? Or sorry, the values align with one of your activities that helped you just kind of lose track of time over the last few days. And if you have a sense of the value and you want to throw that into the chat, we'd love that. So this is like next level thinking, really connecting your values to the work that's engaging and interesting to you. Oh yeah, creativity. Yeah, brainstorming. Alicia and her brainstorming. Oh yeah, personal and professional growth. Yes, family. I mean, Will also has an adorable family. Oh yes. Oh, leadership and decision making. Yeah, thoughtfully being able to provide thoughtful leadership, decision making. I love this. Thank you so much. I know there can be this frustration of like, gosh, there's so few of us in this session. We all have to share. Yes, thank you. Thank you. When I think of, the activity I was doing, being able to like build something, for me, it's impact. Knowing that I can build something and that it can be helpful to others is hopefully helpful to others. We'll see when we get our evaluations back from this. But that's something that really gives me joy. Okay, third one. This graphic, everybody, this is Will O'Brien. If you were wondering who that is Will O'Brien. Will is the one who found this graphic. And so I always give him a shout out when I use it. And I was like, this is Will. This is what it's like to work in the Carlson Career Center. Will just walks around like that, asking for us to help him get charged. So third one is our energy assessment. This is our last activity for today. And so I'm going to ask you to go off chat or go off mute. why, do you remember why you found, what you liked about this graphic?
Yeah, I mean, it was for our energy engagement, right? I mean, you're like looking at a deep, what, someone who's lost all of their fuel, all of their energy, and it's like,
Right.
well, let's charge this person back up so they can stand up.
So they can feel good. Because so don't we so often talk about the things that drain us, but not the stuff that energizes us too, right? Like this is the draining. I love it. Let's stand them back up. Love it.
I was gonna say though, the lightning bolt should be like a little bit towards my lower back right now. So it's not the upper back isn't the part that needs the fixing.
Welcome to your 40s. Well, welcome to
Right,
your 40s. So energy assessment, again, this is in your handout. So what we want to do is, again, we're mining data, right? We're building that big dashboard about you with the data about you. And so what I want you to do is take a few minutes, and like 2 minutes, and you're going to jot down what are the top 8 to 10 work, school, career, I think volunteer stuff, activities that you perform on a weekly basis. So kind of the, like, I would say like the standing items in your calendar, things that are pretty consistent throughout your week, and kind of jot those down. So you can get as granular if you want. If you really want to focus this on work, you can. If you want to do a more holistic in terms of like work and social, what are those kind of standing things? But I want you to get 8 to 10 at least. And so we'll take about 90 seconds on this one, because this can be pretty quick. And move on to the next song. It's new activity, new song. Oh yeah. I mean, when you get Will O'Brien dancing in a session, I mean, that's career fundamental. So. Or maybe he's dancing because the song is like, I'm through with you. I'm through with this job. I'm done. I mean, I just want to be DJ Brigette, so I'm gonna finally turn that off. Okay, so you've jotted down hopefully 8 to 10, maybe you have more, you maybe have less, more is gonna come. That's what happens with this process. So what we're gonna do next, again, we're mining data about your current lived experience. So just kind of check in where we are, we've been doing, thinking about, what does work mean to you? What are your values? And then we're starting to think about how these things might be showing up in your life, also getting a sense of what things really give you joy and energy and what things maybe don't. So what we're going to do is take those 8 to 10 items and we're going to map them out. So you'll notice in your handout, you have a very rudimentary XY axis with, I think I put some little arrows in there that you can adjust as you want to. But what we want to be thinking about is looking at those 8 to 10 items, and in general, over the course of a week, do they tend to give you energy? They're energizers. They're things that you're like, woof, yes. Or are they things that kind of take energy away, where you have the like sad, like the graphic that Will had shared, or the battery one, or sometimes they're a little bit of both. So it can be, maybe it's like, sometimes it's energizing and sometimes it's draining, or sometimes it is just complicated. So this is mine, what mine looks like. And this is only in my professional life. So I didn't share kind of my personal life and all the debauchery I get into outside of work, but you can see those things that are really up arrows for me: team meetings, student appointments, opportunities to be one-to-one with students, building workshops and trainings, presenting, and getting to do one-to-one time like coffee chats and networking with colleagues at Carlson, company and partners, alumni. Love catching up with our people. Things that can be like are things like expense, data requests. In a prior life, I had to do credit card reconciling, and it was really, really painful. And then all college meetings and lectures, which we don't have a ton of those, but it's anytime that we are like having to be in a really, really big group, and I'm just like one of a big number of people, and then I'm like stuck in there necessarily, and like we can't always move, and maybe I'm in a chair that's not very comfortable. And then you can see things that are up and down is onboarding. And Coach Will's like, this is amazing. I don't know that I've ever even shared this with you, Will, that I don't love onboarding. I do not love onboarding. He's like, I know, Brigette, because I onboarded him. I'm not great at onboarding, partially because I talk too much. I talk too much, and I don't give people time to just experience things. So I like conceptualizing the onboarding, but I'm not great at executing the onboarding. So that's why it's kind of an up and down arrow. And then project work, if it's a really long-term project, hard to keep my interest, but I also love new initiatives. So that's going it. So this is mine. I would invite you to do yours. Okay, so do your up and down arrows. Again, they can be up, they can be down. They can be a little bit of both, because that's complicated and that's life. So let's do your charts, 2 to 3 minutes, go. Thanks, Will. Yeah. Okay. I hope you guys are having fun with your arrows and building those up and down arrows. This can also be a bit of a clarity moment sometimes, where we have to be honest with ourselves about things that goes back to that shoulding. Oh, this should give me energy. This shouldn't be so draining. But the reality is it is, right? And that's where we're empathizing when we think about our designing, the design thinking process. It's really empathizing and getting honest with where you are right now. And when Will and I are working, and all of our coaching team, where we're working with folks that are in transition, career exploration, thinking about moving to a new role, starting, continuing, finishing school, you're in transition. There's a lot of reflection that needs to happen, and we have to admit some things to ourselves that maybe we didn't really like what we thought we might like. So the next thing is we take this up and down, our energy map, as we want to dig in just a little deeper. And so we want you to think about, when you're looking back at that map, when are you really in flow? So not every moment is going to be flow, but flow, we kind of get the baseline, simplest description of flow is where you have that healthy balance of it's challenging to you, but you have enough skill to move through it. And it's interesting and it's engaging and you lose track of time. So we go back to that earlier question about when in the last week did you lose track of time? Thinking about when are you just absolutely in that zone. So if you look at your chart again, I encourage you to use whatever image you want to use from PowerPoint. And so I put stars next to mine of the times that I'm really in flow. These are the times I'm really not paying attention to the clock. And so for me, it's really the student appointments and then presenting. I mean, I try to pay attention to the clock when I'm presenting, but that's why Will is here to make sure that we don't go over and it keeps me moving. So thinking about flow, what is that? What are those times? 1 or 2 times when you're really in flow. And maybe you're like, I'm not having moments of flow right now. And that's okay too. That's part of just reckoning where we are right now and empathizing with our current journey so that we understand we can get a better understanding. We don't know what to fix or what to work towards until we understand where we are right now. So then taking this one step deeper, okay, is encourage you to now look back at those items that you were like thinking about something that gave you energy. So pick one of those items, one of the items on your chart. So for me, I would pick student appointments. And then I want you to reflect just on one, reflect deeper. And who was there? So let's try to understand the elements of the experience that can contribute to flow and energizing. And you can also do the flip for draining as well. So who was there? How did they impact your experience? Who were you in that moment? Were you the teacher? Were you the learner? Were you an observer, a participant? What identity were you expressing? Were you getting to be your true authentic self? Were you having to have maybe a little bit of a mask on, a different persona that we sometimes wear in public as opposed to in our circle of friends? What were you actively, specifically doing or passively doing? Were you getting to be in the moment or were you being an attendee? As I mentioned earlier, one of my areas where I struggle, one of my drainers is in like all big meetings because I'm not doing anything and I struggle to sit still. And so I need to be a little more active and moving around. So thinking about what were you doing? What was it that was fun? And then also the where and who, where were you? Were you out and about when you were in that energizing space? Were you at home? Were you with your people and pets and plants? Was there, a stimulation there, like computer, something you could also focus on? Was there a specific setting that made it extra enjoyable? So we want to take that moment to look through it like one of those items. And these are other ways that we're finding clues about what really gives us joy. So as I did this when I was in my own career transition and thought back to the parts of my day that were most enjoyable, I had to also look at the parts that were the drainers. And one of the drainers were larger committee meetings that I was in that I was passive. I left with having a lot of work to do, but not a lot of time to do it. I didn't get to really make the impact that I was looking to do, and was literally trapped in like conference rooms, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable. There were no plants or pets there. It wasn't enjoyable, and I didn't want more of that. So I had to be honest with myself of I don't want more of that. And Will and I hear that in our coaching team. We hear this all the time with students that'll say like, I want hybrid work, or I want to be in the office, or I want to fully be from home. I want to have flexibility of my day. These are all pieces that are really, really important to the career exploration process because they will continually change throughout your career. And we saw this a lot, especially in the last few years going through a global pandemic. So taking time to dig in a little deeper so that we can start to think about how can we emulate this going forward. So what we've done so far today, learned a little bit about the design thinking process, built some awareness of ourselves, a lot of internal reflection and thinking over the course of 3 activities that we didn't get a chance to do all of them with, okay? So what I want you to take a moment to think about is what are some of those themes that you gleaned as you were going through these activities? What was starting to become clear, kind of trending items that you noticed as you went through these activities, or an aha moment, or a takeaway, something that started to surface for you. I appreciate your willingness to share if you feel comfortable. And if not, I understand, but it's always great for us to hear. And I think for you to name what's maybe floating around in your mind as you've gone through these last 53 minutes. Yes. So being able to visualize and thinking about activities that take energy, yes, as opposed to recharging, you know, when what's worth it? Is it the time? Yes, the time. Values, yes, thinking about our values and doing the work to stay aligned to those. Oh yes, Alicia. Girl, I could have told you that. Alicia's like, I got some things that are kind of draining me. Uh-huh. Yes, because you're a busy person. So yeah, sometimes we have to stop and say, am I busy or am I busy or am I being effective and I'm making impact? And what's this what it impacts? Yeah, what is this really saying about me and how is it fueling me? Yes, and Andrew, yes, time to work on these. And so absolutely more time to work on, which is perfect because the next slide is what we want you to do going forward is to crockpot this. Okay, so we're totally in crockpot season in Minnesota right now too. Your homework is to put a note on your calendar for next week at the same time, or tomorrow or Monday, set aside another 30 minutes to revisit this. There's no world in which you just do these for this tiny little workshop, right? We really want a full day with you to go through these. And so revisiting these, reflecting on them. I love to keep like a memo on my phone, and that's where I jot a lot of notes down when I'm thinking about things as I'm on a walk or I'm driving to work. And so I encourage you to go back, think more about that work view. Go back to those values and have an honest conversation with yourself about how you're living those. Look at that energy map. Doing the energy map with friends is also interesting, but I'm a career nerd, so that's something we would say you could do. Your final piece of homework is to register for part 2. So part 2 is again on January 19th at noon. And so the next section is where we build on this and we start to figure out ways to build multiple paths for yourself and ways to prototype it. And so when you leave part 2, you will have at least 3 tangible paths to explore, and you'll have a coaching staff that's here to help you with that as well. So I have finished with 4 minutes to spare, which is a miracle. So I would invite anyone, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to stay on. Otherwise, thank you for sharing your lunch hour with us. Before you leave, we just ask that you click the reactions button and give us an emoji, and that's how you can do a goodbye. We don't need Minnesota goodbyes here. We let you just go, do what you want to do. So I love it. Thank you, Alicia. Love it. I gave you guys a little mushroom. Thanks, Theo. We appreciate it. As soon as you give your emoji, you're welcome to sign off. But if you have any questions, feel free to stay on. And I'm happy to chat. Coach Will and I are both happy to chat. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Theo. Thank you, friends. Yes. Bye, Theo. Thanks, Mark.